172 billion. Seriously, just let that number sink in for a second. That is the staggering total of UPI real-time payment transactions that happened in India during the 2024 to 2025 financial year alone. Absolutely massive. Now, if you've ever just tapped your phone to pay for a coffee or a quick snack, you are already part of this massive shift. But it brings up a really provocative question, doesn't it? How exactly did a nation that historically ran almost entirely on physical cash just leapfrog the rest of the world to become the undisputed global leader in real-time digital payments? We are looking at this incredible story of a huge population transitioning straight from being largely unbanked to hyper-digital, literally skipping the legacy steps that most other economies had to painfully drag themselves through.
So, welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here because we are going to unpack the fascinating architecture behind this whole digital transformation. You can kind of think of India's digital economy as this beautifully constructed layered cake. And together, we are going to explore 3 interconnected shifts that are quite literally rewriting the future of digital commerce.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap. Number 1, the India Stack Foundation. 2, democratizing markets with ONDC. 3, the quick commerce revolution. 4, the unit economics puzzle. And finally, number 5, India's digital future.
Starting with Layer 1, the India Stack Foundation. So you simply cannot have record-breaking digital retail without a rock-solid foundation underneath the whole shebang. To really appreciate the scale here, look at this contrast. Going back to just 2011, over half of Indian adults had no bank account at all. None. Formal credit was pretty much a privilege. Fast forward to 2025, and programs like the Jan Dhan Yojana have driven the creation of 530 million new bank accounts. I mean, that is far more than the entire population of the United States, all banked in just over a decade. It completely transformed the economic reality of the country.
But how did they actually build this foundation so incredibly fast? Well, through the India Stack. First up, they completely removed the need to be there in person with a presenceless identity layer through Aadhaar. Then, they killed the paperwork with DigiLocker. Next came the cashless instant transfers via UPI. And finally, the consent layer using account aggregators, which lets users securely share their own financial data. All of this open, government-backed infrastructure basically slashed the cost for private startups to come in and build new financial services.
Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds. Democratizing markets with ONDC.
Moving right up from the payment layer to the network layer, we hit ONDC, the Open Network for Digital Commerce. Think of it as a government-backed initiative specifically designed to break up e-commerce monopolies. It uses an open-sourced methodology, meaning buyers and sellers from entirely different competing platforms can actually transact with each other seamlessly. It's a real game changer because it's all about creating a level playing field, making sure that those massive, closed-off ecosystems don't just lock out small businesses and local retailers from the whole digital economy.
Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer scale of their 5-year vision. They're aiming to facilitate an additional 3.75 lakh crore in gross merchandising value. That's essentially the total value of goods sold over the network. But even more crucially for our story today, they want 90 crore buyers and 12 lakh sellers actively participating. It's this massive, coordinated push to bring totally untapped regional and linguistic markets right into the fold of digital commerce.
And who's the big winner here? Well, it's mostly micro, small, and medium enterprises. ONDC gives them nationwide visibility, it heavily reduces the costs associated with those expensive closed platform services, and it guarantees fair competition. The government is even rolling out really targeted initiatives like MSME Team, which aims to onboard 5 lakh small businesses, complete with a fantastic target to empower 2.5 lakh women-owned enterprises. It's a really profound shift toward totally inclusive economic growth.
Which brings us to Section 3, the quick commerce revolution.
Now we zoom all the way into the consumer edge, right where all that public infrastructure acts as the ultimate launchpad for some fiercely competitive private sector innovation. Just look at this explosive growth. It went from a $1.3 billion market in 2021, surging to a projected $5.8 billion by 2025. Driven mostly by Gen Z and millennials, getting your groceries delivered in 10 minutes isn't viewed as just some fun luxury anymore. It's practically the baseline expectation. Honestly, if it takes 14 minutes now, people start checking their phones in a panic, wondering what went wrong.
So who is actually winning this high-speed battle in 2025? Blinkit is currently leading the pack, holding roughly 40 to 46% of the market share, and they're using their massive scale to negotiate way better vendor terms. But right on their heels, we have Zepto, the ultimate speed-first challenger, and Swiggy Instamart, which is heavily leveraging its existing food delivery logistics. Both of them are aggressively battling it out for the remaining market share in what is an incredibly intense space.
Next up, Section 4, the unit economics puzzle.
But here is the central tension of this whole business model. Delivering items in minutes burns a staggering amount of cash. This brilliantly illustrates the problem. Rider payouts and last-mile delivery eat up nearly half the costs. Then you tack on another 20 to 25% just for dark stores, those mini delivery-only warehouses quietly hidden away in your neighborhood just to process local inventory. You are basically left with a business model that demands constant capital and absolutely perfect efficiency just to keep the lights on.
The math here is, well, it's pretty brutal. The average order value for a quick commerce purchase is usually only around 350 to 450 rupees, but it costs over 100 rupees just to physically deliver it to you. That structural profitability gap is exactly why these platforms are now desperately pushing their own high-margin private labels, trying to batch multiple deliveries onto a single rider, and heavily promoting subscriptions. They have to force that average order value up if they want to survive.
And finally, Section 5, India's digital future. So where does all this lead us over the next decade? Well, the future growth isn't just sitting in the big metros anymore. It's out in what is known as Bharat, India's Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. 65% of all new online demand is coming from these emerging, semi-urban and rural markets. But here's the catch. To expand profitably into these smaller towns, the quick commerce model has to adapt. They're going to have to relax those intense 10-minute delivery promises down to a much more sustainable 30 to 45 minutes just to make the logistics costs work for the local geography.
When we take a step back and look at this entire layered cake, from the foundational digital payments all the way up to open networks and consumer edge quick commerce, it really ties back to a single macro goal. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi highlighted, initiatives like ONDC are seen as vital tools for empowering small businesses and furthering broad economic prosperity. It's all about designing a digital architecture that makes broad economic empowerment possible.
So the crucial point is this. India has successfully laid down the rails for what is arguably one of the world's most dynamic digital economies. But as we dive deeper and deeper into this convenience economy, we really have to ask ourselves, in the relentless race for digital dominance, will raw speed or smart sustainability ultimately win the next decade? It's a fascinating question to ponder as we watch this incredible digital revolution unfold right in front of us. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.